So we started out, or we signed our like sort of seed term sheet in like February 2020, right? So that's when we really started like building out the team. But there is actually a backstory even beyond this. Arvind, my CTO and co-founder, actually started the company in 2018. So he had already sold his first startup to Freshworks. He was working there, and then moved on to Start. And Dinesh actually in the red t-shirt over there, along with Arvind, had started Factors, and they'd gone through that entire journey of building in a bootstrapped way. Sri and I actually joined in around January 2020, and so that's the sort of starting point for all of us, right? So if anyone here is going through that 0 to 100K journey, bootstrapped, I'd urge that you should have a word with Dinesh. It's something that they've kind of experienced, right? Um, Now, so this was our initial first pitch, actually. This is a slide. It had like the AI bot and people asking questions and stuff like that. We started out as a pure analytics product, and the idea was, how do you actually be that single source of truth for a marketing team, where they can ask any question and get answers to it, right? So the basic thesis was, there are many billion-dollar product analytics solutions. There aren't any in marketing analytics, and why is that the case? And that's how we started out. Yeah, I'm still shocked when I see some of these slides from yesteryears. Yeah, this is even more fun, actually. So this is again like a TAM slide that I used to present. It was like a 30 billion TAM. We said we'll go after every industry possible, yeah, kind of, as you can imagine, we didn't really think this through very well at that time. But yeah, we actually did present some of these slides when we were, speaking to people. So we had a lot of things working for us, right? So firstly we were able to sort of raise funding, which is the first level of luck, chance. A lot of things have to go our way. We had a pretty amazing engineering team from the start. That's something that I think we've always had. And we were actually very practical about most things. So at least between the three of us, we were like, we were not very married to like one problem or driven by only like sort of passion. Like we were very business minded in terms of what is working, what is not working, etc. But despite that, we were not able to scale, right? So from 2021, so we started in, as I said, we built a team, started in 2020 early. It took us like, I think we did our product hunt launch in like September of somewhere around 2021. So it took us like almost a year, but there was nothing like a hockey stick growth, right? So we were kind of stagnant. I remember some of the conversations at that time, like, this is not going anywhere. Or even when we were speaking to VCs, like, this is the valuation, that's what you get for, where you are, kind of a situation. So, yeah, so around December 2022, so that is when, and I've always wondered as to why, what went wrong, right? Like, as to what was it that we didn't get right. And now when I think about it, like, obviously it's the same framework that I think most VCs or most investors also look at, which is to say, are you going after a well understood problem that can be solved relatively, not easily, that can be solved to a high degree of satisfaction, right? Like people will be satisfied with the solution that you have for a specific segment that we can access. So, sorry, for a specific segment that you have the skill set to access, right? And if I go deeper into this, I think the end-to-end marketing ROI measurement is a very well understood problem, right? I genuinely believe it is a very important problem as well. It has a very large sort of TAM. It is very important for the CMO. Like the CMO in a B2B company doesn't log into a marketing automation platform or any other operating tool. They only need like a analytics view of how things are working, right? So from a problem perspective, it was like an important problem. The issue was that it didn't drive like direct sort of revenue or any sort of impact driver of that nature, right? And the last thing was there was no critical event driving urgency of purchase. So we used to have conversations. People used to say, "Oh, this is great, but maybe next year," or "This is great, but 3 months down the line they'll be like, oh, priorities changed," or something like that. So it was not. There was no urgency driving factor, right? So, and I think we have to kind of look at things in intersection. I think for some segments this was very important. That was our learning as well. So this was about the problem itself, right? The second was, can this be solved to a great degree of satisfaction? And this is where we realized that it is a lot of effort to kind of solve this well. There were a lot of operational implementation issues for like a full-fledged like analytics product. You need to integrate with so many systems. You need to get tracking right. A lot of things had to happen. And the other problem with analytics is there is a very diverging opinion on what is good, in the sense that when you speak to 15 people, it doesn't converge to say, oh, this is the view. Like everyone has a slightly different view of what is like a great analytics product, right? So we were never able to kind of narrow down and say, if we do this, that kind of works for majority of the audience. There were some internal stakeholder conflicts, like what works for one part of the marketing team doesn't work for another one. Huge product scope, like lots to build, lot of integrations to be done. There are like 15 marketing automation platforms, 10 CRM. So again, finding like or like 20 chatbots. So huge integration product scope as well. And lastly, it was also customer success heavy. Like analytics is part product and part service as well, right? So you need to kind of give them a view of, this was really a good insight or a good report, right? So, so I still feel it can be solved, but it just needs like a huge amount of effort, and that probably backtracks to, you need a huge amount of investment to kind of make it work as well. In terms of the specific segment, right? So mostly it was very useful for enterprises with a very complex sort of marketing and sales go-to-market. For smaller companies like HubSpot, Sheets, Data Studio was fine. I mean, again, people would acknowledge that our product is better, but they'd be like, I think I'm okay with what we have right now. And again, because there is no factor driving urgency, it would be a combination of, for smaller companies, it would be a combination of I have something and this is not like really urgent, right? And last thing was about what you can access, right? And this is where I think for each set of founders, you need to kind of think about what can you achieve versus what is a segment, right? So we were more focused on SMB, bottoms up approach, more of an inbound-led go-to-market, high velocity sales. This is what we kind of preferred at that time. But the market where the problem was relevant, where it was a important enough problem, was a completely different market, right? So we were stuck in that place of saying, the problem is important for a particular segment. To solve it, you need a lot of investment. It is a heavy sort of product to kind of build out. But the market that we could access was not that market, right? We were not used to selling to like an enterprise, very complex sort of a sale. And that is where the combination didn't fit, right? Individually, I still believe it is a great market, as long as you have the investment and the capacity to kind of build out a solution for that. We were also influenced by more general advice, right? You need to get to 70 to 75K ACV, otherwise it's not a great fundable business, or your executives at the company that you're selling to need to care about this. And I remember conversations that we had internally to say, no, we have to kind of try to figure out how to sell at a higher price. And imagine we were doing that when, generally we were kind of stagnant. We were kind of stuck and not moving. What helped was somewhere in December 2022, we kind of got together and said we have to change direction. And we were very clear that we were going to go after the same buying department. We were leveraging, in fact, 90% of what we built, and I think we were lucky that way, that we were able to add a new direction in the product where we could reuse 90% of what we had, which doesn't happen in most cases, right? In most cases, you have to kind of start from scratch or throw away a lot of what you've done. And we wanted to get to immediate value with very minimal sort of additional effort. And that is where we moved to this entire model of account intelligence, account scoring, helping you do sort of better marketing and sales as a value prop. For the most part, it was on the same sort of technology platform that we had built out, right? So that, as I said, I think we were lucky that way that kind of worked out. And so that really helped us, and executing this transition was also sort of very painful. So somewhere around, I think, December 2022, January 2023, and we took like 100% sort of move teams from one feature to another, sort of, at least the application layer of our product to move from one to another, right? We obviously had a bunch of existing customers. We had to manage them. We had to kind of tell them, hey, this is unfortunately the space that we are going after, and allow them to get out of contracts if need be. Speak to the team, manage the team, because they're also like, hey, what happened to what we were doing for 2 years, right? And we also spent a lot of time with our investors in terms of the new sort of space. I'd say, touchwood, for us, it's worked out. As I said, I don't think it was something that we did very carefully or deliberately. I think a lot of it is just luck as well. But after 2022 is when mostly the growth for us has happened. However, we did kind of, because we changed our sort of overall segment, so we could see that our number of customers increased quite a bit, but our ACVs actually dropped. So ACVs plotted here. So from what we were selling at like a 15K going all the way up to like a 30, 40K product, our ACVs kind of dropped quite a bit as well, right? But overall, in terms of revenue and growth, it worked out. Now, so here, obviously, there was a lot of internal changes that we had to make. Our entire sales model had to change. Customer success model had to change. Earlier, we had, one customer success person managing, let's say, 10 accounts. Now we had to move to that model of one person managing like 50 accounts, right? So all of that change had to happen along with this. So 2023 was a time when we were building as well as kind of figuring out the entire go-to-market piece for this, right? Towards end of 2023, touchwood, we stumbled on interesting use cases which also were valuable to enterprises. So now we are lucky to have some of these larger enterprise logos working with us as well. I can see that our new ACV is actually kind of trending up. It's going back to the 15,000 sort of number that we had, and that's like a blended number. And if you ask me what really happened here was the change in direction that we made also inherently focused us on just one segment, right? So going back to that 30 billion TAM slide, from there we just narrowed down on B2B companies. That's it. That was the only segment that we worked for, and within B2B, SaaS and business services, right? So what we then realized is by spending a lot more time with those customers, we were able to find other use cases which had higher value and were also kind of solvable with the core product that we had. So I think, while it's not intentional, I think the main difference between post 2023 and pre 2023 was the fact that we were just focusing on like one segment, not a small segment. It's still a segment of like 30, 40,000 companies or maybe 50,000 companies globally. But like prior to that, we had like a media publication as a customer of ours. They're one of the largest customers. We had like a home design company which was selling to customers as like a customer. And we also had some SaaS companies. So I think that was the main sort of difference, wherein a change in the sort of direction kind of forced you to pick one segment, and then over time we were just able to keep add more value to that particular segment. So what does the future hold for us? So we continue to focus on executing marketing better as compared to measuring marketing, at least for the next 12 to 18 months. I still believe marketing analytics is a big problem. It's a very big sort of problem space for us to tackle. But before I do this next, I'll ensure we have enough appetite to do it, enough resources to kind of go after the problem, because it's not an easy one to solve. We're still learning enterprise sales, how to kind of do that, and lot of things still to figure out. But I think there is a certain level of confidence to say we have some control over where the direction is, right? So some control over where the wind is blowing, how we are going to navigate, and so on. Lastly, I think in 2025, these are things that we are working on right now, and this is the sort of the AI first product part of it. Like up until now, I covered like the journey. So what we are building now is, so as I mentioned, one of our initial ideas was to say analytics shouldn't be a lot of charts and graphs and you have to build a lot of things. It should be you ask a question, you get an answer. Now, so that's something that we've kind of built into the product to say chat interface has a better experience. But what we are now doing is to say, don't use chat interface for the user, but use, why don't you let more sort of AI agents actually talk to the data? So right now what we are actually moving towards is a model where we can have 5 or 6 sort of AI agents. It could be a search engine marketing specialist, SEO specialist, etc. They will actually interact with the underlying data, run like hundreds of reports, and then come back with very high level sort of responses on what's working for you and what's not working for you, right? So if you had to kind of, so what we're thinking is if you had to rebuild an analytics product now that everything in 2022, 2023 has happened, how would that look like? And my bet is it would not look like Tableau, right? It would look slightly different. So that's something that we are very actively kind of working on. I expect that these are some of the things that we are focusing on to say how do you have AI agents as users of your features and not like end customer, right? So you don't have to worry about drop downs and so on and so forth. They can just take text and work with it. How can you run a lot of simple reports, then consolidate intelligence from that? How can you model different points of view? Like for example, if you have like a SEO team and they want to look at what should be the next kind of content that you should write, if you speak to 3 different marketers, they'll give you 3 different answers, right? But internally, you'll only have one marketer in the team. But I can model like 3 different AI agents, someone who's focused more on top of the funnel growth, another person who's focused more on bottom of funnel growth, etc. And they can actually look at the data and come back with these responses. So these are some of the things that we are currently working on. Last slide, I'd say our takeaways would be if every day in the startup feels like pushing a boulder up or swimming against the tide, yeah, that's probably that's probably a time to take a pause and think what is an adjacent area to kind of go to. And access to market, I think that's probably the biggest one, right? That really depends on founder skills, and you just need to choose a problem that aligns with that, right? If you're not, or you have to be able to figure out how to learn that yourself. And as long as you have visibility into an eventual 12 to 18K ACV, then I think the rest of the sort of market guidance, I'd say take it with a pinch of salt. As long as you are able to acquire customers and customer satisfaction is high, I think you're good, right? I think, for example, I spend quite a bit of time saying, oh, how will this eventually become like a much higher ACV product, etc. I think over time that just happens. But in any case, if customer acquisition is hard, satisfaction is also low, then it's probably going to be hard anyways, right? So that was pretty much it from my side.